Buddy, we are grateful for you taking the time and signing in for a Digital World Town Hall meeting. Today is September 16th, 2025, and a lot has transpired since we've connected last week, or at least since I should say a week ago, last Tuesday. We're going to focus on what's occurred since this last week, whether it's advancements or things in the world. Then we're going to have general Q&A and topics that anyone wants to discuss. We're primarily looking for any kind of guidance, direction, correction, feedback, anything in how the digital world matures, and making sure that we're thinking through things that may be blind spots or maybe important things that may be overlooked or need to go a different path, or people just see things a different way. So thank you for taking the time to join us, especially those co-hosts. I was actually going to tell folks that Wally wasn't available because he just needs your prayers in life. And, we just deal with things as we get the opportunity to go through life, but prayers there would be greatly appreciated. So we're grateful for the knowledge that we're here physically, but there's also a spiritual element of life. And we're spiritual beings that are connected to this physical bodies that we all get to live in and this physical environment. But as you know, most of you are looking at this, actually probably all of you are looking at this from a digital perspective, some type of digital medium, which is really a jurisdiction that humanity has yet to really understand the importance of. But it is different than the spiritual layer and the physical layer, and the governance structure and protocols that ties to it, specifically around decentralization, is just imperative for future generations. And we're grateful to be able to discuss that in the digital world and for your involvement. At this time, we're going to go ahead and offer a prayer. And Mariano is going to actually give us an opening prayer, and Wally's going to give us a closing prayer. So thank you for those that are here, and specifically for allowing us to take this time and to reflect. So Mariano, if you're on, please.
Yes, hello everybody. How are you?
Good.
Hopefully everything's all right.
We can hear you.
Yeah, perfect. Sorry, I had some problems. So I'm going to say the prayer in Spanish, ¿ok?
That's great. No worries.
Okay. Padre Todopoderoso, te agradecemos el día de hoy que estamos aquí todos reunidos en nombre de tu amado Hijo Jesús, para que nos ilumines nuestro camino, que nos des toda la sabiduría, la certeza, todo lo que necesitamos para guiar estas almas, a todas las personas que necesitan de tu divina gracia, que necesitan de todos estos conocimientos, de toda esta guía, y que podamos formar estos grupos que necesitan tanto de tu amor y tu cariño. En nombre de tu amado Jesús, amén. Del Padre, del Hijo, del Espíritu Santo, amen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate all of your involvement, and it's massive. It's massive. I know we may not realize it today, but your involvement will impact not just generations, but nations. So thank you. For those of you that need to be aware, this is a private membership association. Some of the things we talk about may be forward-looking. To reminder, we believe that there are centralized systems that are controlling humanity, and decentralization is really a way to be able to offset some of these key secret combinations that are doing these things. We won't go through the specifics, but basically there's a private element and a public element, and it's important to enable private type of systems, but the reality is to do it in such a responsible way where transparency and honesty can actually be realized. Decentralization, we believe, is a true and correct principle, not only from the creation of individuals or every living thing, whether it's sprouted or hatched or birthed, but really the planets as well, how they work. If we look through a telescope, you can see life being created and natural intelligence on its own, as well as through a microscope, at the cellular layer. What's interesting, this last week, a gentleman, Charlie Kirk, talked about the beautiful part of creation and life, and that happens at the cellular layer. And, decentralization is just a true and correct principle. We'll talk about Charlie in just a minute, because he's going to be a core part of what we kind of review. But for those that may not understand what decentralization is, just you getting basically 12 words and linking it to you as an individual, and then using derived keys and how those keys actually work, do key rotation and manage on their own, with how technology can basically connect the physical and digital worlds through these decentralized architectures. The architectures come in three different layers: one that is actually the identity layer, one that's the transaction layer, and one that's the storage layer. The combination of those layers intelligently put together build what the digital world is around these three different components, so to speak. So some of the things we'll talk about, and we're getting some feedback. So if somebody's driving, we're probably just hearing the road noise and you're not aware of it, but thought I'd let you know. We're going to focus in on not just phones, homes, and autos and communities today, but really reflecting on Charlie Kirk and his contribution to life, and ultimately ending with his physical life being taken from him just minutes away from where we are. As a matter of fact, every Friday we have a meeting with the state of Utah and some other organizations at the Utah University, which is probably only 50 feet away from where he was shot. Utah Valley University is a very good university. I was on the board there before we moved to New Zealand back in 2011, and they're a very wonderful university that I believe does a good job of connecting in true and correct principles. You know, even though they're a government body, it's a state. It was originally a state college, but it was UCCU, then USC, UCS, Utah State Community College, Utah State. So USCU. There we go. Sorry. Anyways, Utah Valley Community College is what it was called before it was Utah Valley State College or Utah Valley College, UVU, Utah Valley University. Boy, I better just stop while I'm ahead. So, with that being said, I'd like to pause and jump over to a post that was made this last week as it relates to Charlie, and just spend some time on him as an individual. For those of you that you're seeing, he was only 31 years old, so 1993. I personally didn't know him well. I did 3 or 4 events with him. The last one I did was at their invite, and I actually took my 2 youngest sons, who are twins. They were 16 years old at that time, and his organization, Turning Point, rolled out the red carpet for the youth. Like, they had tracks that were specifically for them. They were respected. They got VIP tickets. You know, they were just really, and I saw this in New Zealand when we lived there, where the culture would actually respect the youth, and then the youth would arise to the occasion. I think that's why a lot of folks really, especially the youth, really loved what he was doing. From some numbers that I was given earlier, and I haven't verified these, but from what I understand, there are different universities or schools, and I don't know if they're college versus high school or not, but there were about 1,200 that he would actually go, that had requested he come and actually drive some awareness around some of the topics that he focuses on, which I think is just general common sense in life. But from the 1,200 that were there, within the last week, over 32,000 have been requested to basically join in. That's a big deal. From my perspective, that's a very, very big deal, and a topic that proves that him taking his last breath is actually going to expand the work in a very rapid way. So 1,200 to 32,000, not 1,200 to 3,200. We're talking 1,200 to 32,000 within a week. And I think that's going to create a lot of people with similar voices as to what Charlie Kirk had. We're going to watch a quick video and just kind of remember him. you know what, for our audience online, they're not going to be able to hear that. So we're going to jump over to this one really fast so they're able to hear it.
Ourselves, where our eyes are never closing, hearts are never broken, time's forever frozen still. So you can keep me inside the pocket of your ripped jeans, holding me closer till our eyes meet. You won't ever be alone. Wait for me to come home. Loving can heal, loving can mend your soul, and it's the only thing that I know. I swear it will get easier. Remember that with every piece of you. And it's the
Mr. Robinson,
we keep this love in a photograph. We made these memories for ourselves.
We'll also step through some of the, let's see if we've got, I won't talk about this right now, but hopefully in the future. For those of you that are not aware, this is actually some of the events that we would do. It's called Turning Point Action. And then there was Turning Point USA. And a lot of folks that had just aligned beliefs, including myself, we would go and talk, and we would talk on different circuits. We would discuss different things. There were a group of individuals that were really dedicated to it. And this was before, actually, this was just after the elections. So the elections were November. This was in December. And so a lot of momentum was really being realized here. Jimmy Levy was also with us, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful time. This is something that we would like to discuss, but we'll discuss this a little later around transfers. This was actually some of the involvement there. But really, I just want to remember him as an individual for his contribution. This was something that kind of stood out to me this week. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. And, I think a lot of the things that he did, especially with education, he saw that the system was busted. Instead of just saying, hey, everybody homeschool, he went in and actually started having conversations that were difficult conversations in the middle of everything. And that's a different way to approach it. And I think that he was able to drive a political awareness and spiritual awareness at a level that humanity hadn't seen before. And it's just neat to see. I do know that there was some organizations in Utah that did some similar things. What was it called? It wasn't, it was about pornography. They started going into the schools. It wasn't the Utah Coalition Against Pornography. It was before them. Anyways, same type of thing, but really they went about the model in a very different way. So I'd also say that the digital world is doing that. The digital world is building systems that are literally combating the existing reality in a very different way. So that's probably one of the reasons it stuck with me. One of the ways that I'd like to talk about today is it's not just about the goals that we talked about with homes and with phones and with community and with autos, which are things that we all basically use, but it's actually about food. So things that we actually consume. Yeah, there's no words for that. There's some questions that just don't feel right, but in time, be the great revealer, so to speak. I'd like to talk about a topic with an individual he's actually physically here with me right now. Um, and what this is all about is basically things on where consumers actually connect. And for almost as long as I've been alive, this organization has basically been pulling in um, customers that actually use product, consume product, that's not in the centralized systems. It's not in the centralized farming. It's not in the supply chain that's out there. It literally, it's literally taking decentralization at its core, where people live, where animals live, but intelligently organizing those animals in such a way where they can then process them and then feed them to humans. Now, for some of you that know, I like to eat veggies, and maybe I guess I do fish too, but I guess I'm going to start doing a little bit more meat. So animals, I believe, and this is probably one of the reasons why I just do vegetables when I can, but I'm convinced that we're given gifts here on earth, and a stewardship over animals is one of them. And to use them and actually consume them as humans, it's not that it's bad, but we've got to do it in a very responsible way. And one of the things I loved about not just this individual and who he is, because I've known him for over 30 years. We're coming up on 30 years, probably actually over 30 years. Wow. Actually way over 30. Well, yeah, just over 30. But not only who he is from a character standpoint, as in having good character, that's sound and solid, but for what the heritage of his business has basically created for not just Utah, but I think as a beacon for the future. And I know this may sound weird, but if a lot of you have heard us talking about sheep in Beaver County and being able to take them and digitize a digital twin of them and their life. Where were they born? Who were they born from? What farm were they on? What land were they on? What did they eat? How did they grow? Were they vaccinated? Did they get any kind of pharmaceutical XYZ, maybe an antibiotic, maybe a penicillin, maybe, a hormone, maybe, trying to understand what's gone into these animals, and then how were they slaughtered? When were they slaughtered? Where were they slaughtered? Those types of things, and then tracking them all the way through consumption. And as most of you know, the digital world provides a platform for this, but this individual literally, just like what we're on today, and just like what the listeners are listening to, he observed a meeting, a digital world town hall, and reached out to me and says, Mike, in a roundabout way, I really don't understand what you're doing, but I know that it's right, and I'm all in. I'm all in with my family. I'm all in with my business, and let's figure out how to actually do it. So I had the opportunity to meet with him, and we've had a couple different meetings. And it turns out that his love for indigenous communities, whether it's the Navajos or the Hopis or others, is really aligned spiritually, I think. We haven't really talked a lot about it, but there's massive alignment on multiple levels. It's not just a technology or spiritual or friendship standpoint, but I believe that what he has built within a business as well as his family can actually help to enable the future of the butcher industries for many, many butchers, for many, many farmers, and for many, many animals to be able to responsibly be accountable for their lives. Because I think there's a lot of things that are just unsaid. Oh, the animal doesn't have a voice. We can do this to it, or we don't have to pay attention to that, or we don't have to have responsibility in this way. But I think transparency automatically drives some of that responsibility, which I think is just a beautiful thing. And so he's got products, different kinds of products, and he's actually saying, and this is not done yet, so we're still in the process of standing this up, but actually saying, we will actually take these products and build them in such a way where the world can actually consume them from the digital twin and a digital payment standpoint. So what I'd like to do is kind of drop into some of the things that we're talking about and try and make it real for this audience even before it's built, but also get feedback and maybe warning signs or maybe concerns around how that actually works. Yeah, so without doing a formal introduction, these are them. So, yeah, with that being said, I'll go ahead and bounce out. Actually, I'll go through. I'm going to run through this here, which is going to actually go through the end in mind. So imagine products that are basically digital assets. These are actually what would be purchased online with a digital currency, so to speak. You know, maybe there's different types of products, and this is a regional thing, right? So when we talk about decentralization, it really goes down to different communities in different parts of the world, because remember, it's not just a vote on who we think we want to actually govern different organizations or countries or kingdoms, etc. But it's a matter of what we purchase and what kind of product it is and what we purchase it with is really the ultimate vote. And so standing up some of these products and doing it in such a way where records and history is transparent and the processing from the harvesting to the productization. So this is actually the core 6 products that they currently sell and have sold for almost 50 years: lamb, beef, pork, elk, bison, and poultry. I don't know how many on the call actually eat those kinds of products, but actually yesterday after meeting with the state of Utah has big news and big stuff, but I really think that this is very massively important for us to think through, to get your feedback on, to maybe guide us in a different direction if we're going down a wrong direction, but to tokenize these assets that then turn into products that are actually purchased. So imagine a lamb gets tokenized and an organization like a butcher, like what we're talking about, purchases that lamb from a first right of refusal, but they put a deposit down. I won't use numbers, but let's say that 10 or 20% of the purchase price of that animal projected is actually deposited, and then the farmer can actually go and take those funds and actually create a digital twin. So they create a QR code that goes on the ear of the animal, hopefully in a very wise and responsible way. Maybe it's got NFC, maybe it's got Bluetooth, maybe it doesn't. Maybe you can push them through chutes and automatically have inventory and all these other things all built in with it. Or maybe it's just a simple QR code, so you actually have to scan them, etc. But imagine you create a digital asset that then enables the farmers to get paid, which is really where the cash flow crunch is, and then them to project what's coming in the future, and then the consumer to also do possibly the same thing. For instance, this yesterday meeting that I had, I met with this guy. They were actually closed, right? So it's Monday at just after 4, and I think they closed right at 4. And I couldn't get in because I was coming to visit them. He was up in Idaho and doing different things, and I didn't know if he was there or not, but I was going to stop by. And it was closed. And so I asked the guy, I knocked on his window. He had this big truck, and I said, "Hey, are they open?" He says, "No, but I sure wish they were." I said, "Why?" And he says, "Because I love their products, and I've got some people coming in, and I just there's nowhere else that I can get the quality of products that these guys have." It was super sincere. I mean, I didn't even know this guy from Adam. And so I said to him, "Well, what if you could buy these products with a digital asset?" And he paused, and I didn't know if he was getting what I was talking about, but he said, "That would just be awesome, because I'm in the construction business, and all I do is try and pay my vendors and workers." You know, he said he had up to 150 people, and he's like, "I want to just pay them all in Bitcoin. And as much as I can pay in Bitcoin, I try and do it." And what I thought was interesting is like, "Oh, wait, Bitcoin. Well, why don't you download Utah Life and let's show you the future of Bitcoin? Real time, private, and it's actually right here in Utah and right here with this butcher." And he was just blown away, literally blown away. Within 3 minutes, he had created his digital identity. He actually created a digital business. He saw how digital assets were created. We didn't complete that. He actually received a digital asset logged into the asset page, which I'll show you what he actually was doing. So he logged into the asset page. Let's see if I've got one up. I'll actually go through this one here. And he was able to actually do a transaction where he would actually send, I think he actually went from DUSD to DGBX, okay? So he actually went through a process of swapping. For those of you who haven't seen it, I don't know what we've got here. Maybe I switch that around, it'll work. So he basically went through a process to see how it actually worked. And he was just blown away because historically, he would take his Bitcoin, put it on Coinbase, and then send Bitcoin to whoever else would receive Bitcoin, right? And they're getting fees, they're getting time delays, they're not owning the assets. And all three of those things he recognized independently. Like that's a massive deal, right? I mean, it's a really big deal. So he did a transfer, just like kind of what we see here. I won't actually do it, but you can, you scan this, so it comes back to the keys that are actually on the phone, etc. And he was just super excited. And he was like, we actually buy a lot of, he said, we probably buy $20,000 worth of food from these guys every year. My wife is usually the one that's here buying it. And I'd like to just buy 10 grand right now. It's like, well, hold on a second. We actually haven't created the digital assets. We're still in the process of doing that. But the point is this was one litmus test, one customer that I asked one question to. And what tells me is, hey, out there in the world, there's about 6% of crypto that's adopted today. Well, that's at least maybe 2 months old data. And if these guys have 50 years worth of customers that are actually either on the farming side or the consuming side, I believe that is actually the ecosystem that ties directly to the sheep, which you all, for those of you that have been listening, the sheep side of things is actually a massive first completely tokenized digital life and the whole life cycle that we're working on with a county that gets it, with farmers that get it. And now it just so happens that not only do they run the same type of butcher in northern or mid Utah, but they actually have a processing facility in Utah, in Beaver County, right where this is at. So I got so excited. I called the county commissioner. She was in DC last week. And she was like, oh, yes, I know where that's at. I actually have sheep there right now. Not her, but others, and blah, blah, blah. And so there's this massive connection of alignment. And this is a perfect example of what I've tried to say over and over, that this work is bigger than all of us, bigger than literally it. And the doors just open up at the right time, at the right place, with the right people. Maybe that's because of prayers. Maybe that's because of intention. Maybe, but I know that this work is supposed to happen. I know that, it's like what we've said before. If you remove greed, you remove pride, you remove ego, it allows us as individuals to actually be conduits and a part of building something physically that ties to something that maybe spiritually we've been guided on, or maybe we just inherently know. So, and that's probably why decentralization, at least for me, is so natural. It's like, yes, the transaction goes through, the system's never shut down, there's no fees, there's no delays, there's no centralized system that can control future generations. And the individual actually owns their own asset. They own their own identity. They own their own ability to actually govern themselves. I mean, and, responsible governments can actually plug into this and can actually say, hey, we want to do this a different way. So with that being said, I just wanted to bring up some of the things that we're talking about from digital assets. So there's just 6 assets: poultry, bison, elk, pork, beef, lamb. And then, the ability to take it to the world and to build potentially from this culture, if you will, or this environment, or this business, or this history, or this legacy and heritage, into a type of digital butcher that can actually, I believe, disrupt a lot of the supply chain that a lot of us just take for granted. And if we do that, if we're able to grow local food, whether it's a zucchini or a coconut. That was for you, Charles. Or, if we're able to just grow these different types of environments local to us, we don't have to have the dependence on centralized system, whether it's shipping, whether it's monocropping, whether it's and I just don't even believe the opposite of this. The opposite of this is they're basically creating synthetic meat centrally. That just blows my mind. When we've been given the gifts, and from my perspective, I actually think we're better off eating the grass and the stuff that the cows eat than eating something that's been processed and put onto them. But that's a different conversation. Probably not the same way that other people view it. But we would be eating all day like these animals do. Sometimes I look out and I see the sheep eating or the cows eating or the horses eating, and it's like they just eat all the time. But sometimes, usually around 9 or 10 in the morning, because they've been eating for 3 hours, they'll just go lay down and have a nap. And it's a beautiful life. But at the same time, I guess it's just us in the body getting to learn what is true and correct, whether that's decentralization, whether that's eating meat, whether that's, being good stewards, whether that's getting outside. And I'm blabbing now, but this week has been a crazy week. And I think we're blessed in so many ways. I'm super proud of Charlie Kirk's wife and for the stand that she's taking. I don't really understand. I think there's some crazy moving parts with this whole thing. But one thing I have learned in life is we are nobody's judge. And in the end, we need to do the right things that we know as individuals in the right time, in the right place, and we need to act. And I love what his Turning Point act and action is all about. And I'm grateful for all of not just the listeners, but also the folks that are here. By the way, we've got a live audience for those that you may not be aware. And I'd like to just stop blabbing at this point, even though I've got a lot to blab on. But is there any thoughts or feedback or interactions or comments that anyone might have from all around the world? So audiences are probably from 5 or 6 different continents, countries. Anyways, anything? I'm going to stop talking now.
Yeah, Michael.
Kia ora.
How's it going?
Really good.
I really like this idea from all points, but particularly from a process of the ecosystem and a backed coin through actual agricultural commodities, I guess you could say. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant, and it links up all the farmers. They can transact with something that is backed by their very own produce between themselves and others, whatever they're farming. Like you mentioned before. So yeah, super excited to hear about this process with the butchers and the farmers. That link is paramount, and the assets that can be tokenized, and then backing a currency that is circulated amongst them is perfect. So, yep, just wanted to share that from a perspective of backing assets with real assets backing currencies that can be circulated. This fulfills the ultimate ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
And food is so paramount. The two things that are critical in an ecosystem is food and transactability. So those two things here is nailed in one. So that's very, very exciting.
Yeah, and again, this is a 50-year-old business, and they have real customers. It's not just consumers or wholesalers, but there's a lot of retailers, a lot of restaurants. Like I went to a restaurant yesterday. This was before I went over to their place, and I had lunch with a gentleman that's just a wonderful gentleman. And I told the gal that was what do they call them? the stewardess or the server, waitress. Yeah. And what, just one or two items, just pick whichever one. And she brought out I said salad or soup. And so she brought out the salad, and there was steak on it. And I was like, oh, I didn't think that would, but where did the steak come from? And she says, I don't know, but I know it's local and I know it's good. I says, okay, well, I'll eat it. So I ate it. And then I went over and actually a day later, I actually asked this gentleman who actually runs it. And I says, this is where I was at this, what was it called? Black Sheep restaurant. Wonderful, wonderful restaurant. For those of you that went to the Digital World Summit in 2021, we actually ate at one of their restaurants. The whole summit did. So, but wonderful folks. And it turns out, sure enough, the steak on that salad came from this same butcher. And they have done a very good job of penetrating the market in the Utah market and its real world consumption. And in my mind, when I was actually eating it, I was thinking, what if they actually went to their customers and said, not only are we buying on the farmer side, but we're actually allowing any of our customers to pay from the consumer side or the wholesale or retail side to pay with a digital asset. And we've got Gary on the call. Gary, I'm gonna talk a little bit about Goldbacks and Alpine Gold and some of the things that they've helped to bring into fruition. This is actually the 8th edition of the 8th state, I should say, of Oklahoma. So for those of you that can't see, this is gold, real 24 karat gold. This $100 is worth about, I want to say here, I'll look it up real fast. This particular one is worth about $738 for this one $100, and it's basically, what is this, 1/100th of an ounce. So it's a percentage of the ounce. But the point is you can create a digital copy of this, and we're working with Alpine Gold and the folks that actually are behind Goldbacks to basically bring this to the world and bring this to real world adoption. And it's not just for one ecosystem or another, but imagine if people start understanding this, that instead of taking, and this is another crazy ratio that I heard this last week, since 1971, which is when the World Economic Forum and the United Nations and all these other organizations basically were created, the value of the dollar has depleted by 98%. It's like mind-blowing, right? 98% buying power gone down versus the chart that I'm looking at here. We're talking just earlier this year, $5.17 to $7.38. So basically, by just paying folks and even holding an asset similar to what you see in other assets, right? So there's other assets that have accretiveness just like that. But think about it. If I were to burn $1, I don't even think I have one here. If I were to burn $1, it's paper, it just goes up into nothing, versus burn this, it turns into the actual gold elements that are inside of it, 1/100th. Now, a lot of people would say, and probably me included, what is really gold good for? We put it in electronics? Well, not all the time. Do we build things with it? Maybe make a tooth or something? I don't know. But the key is it's actually a store of value because of what it took to exhume it from the earth. We've been given this wonderful earth and all these minerals and resources and stewardship over to create things. And when you look at animals, like what you're in the business to do, it intelligently, and I would even say from a decentralized standpoint, creation, the form of creation, and these little animals to know. I mean, think about it. How many of them come out the same way? Like Black Angus steers. They come out like 99% the same. They don't have 12 horns or 3 eyes or, we as humans have even been messing with genomes and DNA to say, we're going to take this sequence on this fruit fly, take the antennas and move it to its butt. from its head. Like, we figured out how to do this stuff. That's because they intelligently know through the power of creation that those antennas are actually going to go here. And then all this stuff, it proves what Charlie Kirk is trying to have been saying, and so many others. Just look around, look at life. A simple seed to grow grass or a tree, like, you take a little seed and it turns into something that is actually just like what it came from. That's decentralized intelligence. That's seed. And anyways, I'll stop blabbing, but for me, it's just so amazing to be able to realize that and then tie it to things that are actually real world in systems that can actually grow on their own. So with that being said, I'll stop blabbing again and turn it back over to any other questions that folks might have. Thoughts, topics. It doesn't even need to be related to anything that we're talking about. If there's something you want to bring up from this last week, or maybe condolences or appreciation from Charlie, or anything, it's now is your time or opportunity.
Michael, just a quick editorial. The 100 gold-backed notes is a tenth of an ounce. It kind of matches the 10th of an ounce U.S. minted coin. Of course, with the smaller the denomination, the higher the premium, but the premium stays with the base note. Was the one thing, Michael. But so that's real gold in your hands, but it is a fractional representation of the bigger picture of owning the proven real world asset. And the beauty of what you're doing is you're bridging that physical, tangible, touchable, eat, bite, kick, and steer asset with the digital world, which allows us to transact after hours or in fractional terms, yet backed by a trusted, validated, proven assay and or a system of record, a vaulting system and a treasury management system, as our brother Adam runs down from his New Zealand base, which we obviously look forward to adopting as we go forward with you to create these tokens, Michael, for Alpine Gold Exchange through the digital world, Michael. But I also don't want to hijack the speaking time, but I do want to just quickly make one small invitation. I want to extend one small invitation to you, and that is to come out and see what our friend Jimmy Story's doing at the Freedom Mercantile in Vernal, Utah. They have completely and absolutely embraced the decentralized, localized adoption of locally produced, locally sourced, sustainably sourced and responsibly sourced products, everything from raw goat's milk to eggs and duck eggs and pheasant eggs and so forth. All, and you have to be a member of the Mercantile, which is a private membership association, in order to be able to buy these products, which are considered raw, which the Food and Drug Administration considers, to be taboo, and you have to put all sorts of impurities and pasteurization and all that and compliance in order to be sold on supermarket shelves. But in a local private membership association, you can exchange these products. And back to the gentleman from New Zealand earlier on, it does make the locally produced farming produce accessible to the communities. It's a completely community-based organization. So basically, it is the incarnation. It is the incarnation of the physical world that would benefit greatly from the ability for us to be able to replace what they use there. That they do accept Venmo, they accept physical paper fiat dollars, and they also, so the point being is, if we could make the gold back and or fractional gold, silver, and other sound money assets as imminently transactable as that which you find on Venmo, we will have hit, or the collective community will have hit, the home run getting away from the cabal. Michael, just without getting too deep down any particular rabbit hole, that, and then of course our hearts go out and our tears have been shed for our friend and guider and a maestro of the youth, Mr. Charlie Kirk. But I'll get back to you at that point, Michael. That's just what I wanted to add. It was kind of burning in my pocket, burning a hole in my pocket. So I had to share.
You're absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. And I would actually like to maybe take a trip with you or maybe just, Jeremy and I run out there and try and understand what they're doing and learn from it. And then, we rise the waters in a particular environment. It just so happens right now we're on this 1,200 acre estate that's basically got a couple hundred different folks that are involved in it that live here, a couple hundred homes that will also be added that are normal homes, and then a couple hundred twin homes for those that are townhomes, but when we talk to that type of a model, rolling it out with a private ecosystem, then within, like what you're talking about, that Mercantile is a private membership association, but we've got to extend it from just one store, selling, types of milk to other stores, and then figure out the distribution side of it, figure out how you intelligently organize the supply chain, the other elements. By the way, thank you for being here. And for those of you that didn't know, this is actually Gary. He's the one that was just talking. And wonderful, wonderful experiments and opportunities that we have to learn from litmus tests. I think the Bitcoin was a litmus test. It proved that people would adopt it. It proved that the encryption worked. It didn't nail the time, so it doesn't transfer in full settlement in the amount of time that economies can be run on. And because of what they've done with some of the technologies, well, there's balloons or something, to basically track it, as well as what the Lightning Network has done to it, it's not private. And so the reality there is we can learn from it and grow with it, but there's a whole nother category of needs and importance and other elements. So we're actually out here on this. These are some of the events that we did with Charlie, but we're actually out here on that same location, which is in between where you currently are and where you're talking about out in Vernal. So what I'd say is let's see if we can create kind of this private ecosystem. We call it, a digital cowboy or a digital cowgirl or a digital butcher that can basically come and work from here and build their life, whether it's a digital treasurer or a digital, the key is how can we get this mecca where people can come and operate and actually be in the private. And not only that, but imagine if you connect with what you're doing with your 6 products. Is it 8 or 6? 6 products. Let's say beef into unpasteurized milk, if there's a market for that. Or if you connect them up together and then let a certain type of driver, and I'll go ahead and show an image on that. So for instance, let's say that, let's see if I've already skipped it. Let's say that there's a certain type of vehicle that says, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and deliver this out. And it may not be just a butcher. Maybe it's just a delivery that ties to digital payments. And maybe that's actually how the start of an Uber or Lyft type environment starts. But they do it with vehicles that actually have economics that's like nothing else that humanity's seen. So the point is it's got to start somewhere. And I believe these digital world town halls create an opportunity for us to come and collaborate and think about it. And your feedback, Gary, and your feedback, Adam, are exactly perfect points of how we can actually do this all together. We come from different parts of the world. Gary's from South Africa. Adam's from New Zealand or Aotearoa. Yeah, who else wants to say something? Anybody? Any feedback or comments or thoughts or observations before we wrap up? If not, we'll go ahead and have a closing prayer. I'll give another couple seconds for people to unmute if that's the issue.
I want to apologize. I didn't recognize Adam's voice. It sounded so young and ebullient. But yeah, we look forward to plugging in with Adam and getting the treasury management to help to back our tokenization, Michael, and then
For sure.
hopefully make it ubiquitous among over several exchanges. So, Adam, thank you also for what I learned last week with you and Michael out there. And Michael, I just want to one more plug, because it does need like a person or a couple to stand up and say they're going to take the horns, literally and figuratively, and run the mercantile and get it stood up. We will give them the cookie cutter blueprint for it, Michael, on every level, including the spiritual level. We'll give them the blueprint for it. All they got to do is invest their human capital and a little bit of fiat, and they can get this thing going. But that store that you showed me there, Michael, when I was at your office last week, that store would be absolutely 1,000% perfect for what it is. And then then Jimmy and Charlene from Vernal will give the blueprint to make that thing into a buzzing hive of activity and commerce, local commerce for the local benefit, as opposed to the big box stores and chains, Michael. And the chains are figurative and literal as well. I just wanted to say that. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, and God bless.
God bless you too, bud. Thank you for all that you do for so many. I know it goes unmentioned, but you and Alpine Gold have been pushing for, I want to say, over a decade, if it's not coming up on a decade. And your leadership in the monetary reality of the sides of the world, and setting up all the different Alpine Exchange branch offices, not just in Utah, but many other states, and providing that alternative to the centralized fiat nightmare that humanity's really, in the middle of, so to speak. There was if you didn't see it there, actually, maybe we can see it right here. There was a chart that talks a little bit about, oh boy, it's going to be way in here. It talks about the difference between the currencies. Well, I shouldn't say currencies, but the value of gold and the value of the dollar. So this goes, basically back to what we're talking about here. So other thoughts or comments or feedback or topics?
Hey, Michael.
Hello.
Hello. I just have a question. Actually, it goes back to a couple of meetings ago. You had a screen slide there with all the life apps on it. You had like Africa Life. You had a bunch of different slides. I don't know if you've got those handy there.
Yeah, I can pull it up for you real
but
fast.
On it, there was Pacific Life. And I know the last few years we've been talking about a life app for each individual nation under the phases that we've got. But have we kind of shifted in the unions to go to the one app for the one phase instead of the original idea, which was individual apps for each nation?
It actually is a combination of it. Really good question. And I'm glad that you brought it up, because this is all different within the last week as well. So you can download different life apps within different jurisdictions and on different platforms. So the ones that I'm going through right now is for Apple or iOS phones. It also works on tablets, but I recommend it on a phone, not a tablet, but it does work on both. You've got different unions, the Asian Union, the African Union, which we've actually made a lot of advancements within the African Union. The African Union is actually based out of Ethiopia, and the gentleman that's behind this is actually flying over there within the week again, and continuing to move this movement forward within Ethiopia, which is actually where so we're talking about, payments and suppliers. This is in Ethiopia, right? The government is actually literally supporting this, but bigger than the government is what they're doing is the union is actually supporting it. So this African Union, which combines North and South Africa together out of Ethiopia, is actually behind it. So for instance, you can actually log in to this same environment with your same life app, and it works across different jurisdictions. The Americas, massive topic. That's actually live. Version 1 is live. Version 2 is not within the American Union, but that's live. You can log in here. You can download. Actually, there's no download, but you've got the login. So, but any Life app will log into any jurisdiction. It's just your, like if you start a business in Mexico, right? So I'm jumping from unions globally to regional, different countries per se. So let's say you actually start a business within the Mexican jurisdiction. That's not going to tie to the Ethiopian jurisdiction. So I hope that answers your question, but these are different environments that are currently being targeted and energy behind. The Canadian Life environment is live. So if you just click on these, or here, I'll pull these 4 up here. So you got the Canadian environment. I pull them all up at the same time, and I'm not on a super strong connection, so we'll allow some time to come up. I probably shouldn't have done that. As a matter of fact, I'll close this one down. It already came up. That's funny. So here's the Mexican one. And then the Canadian one, and then the American one. So I won't continue to belate that, but you kind of understand it from the global perspective to the regional perspective and then the local perspective. For instance, in the case that we're talking about right now with this business, it's primarily off of the Utah Life app. So you can download the actual Life app and then log into the actual event. And then you'll see those local vendors and suppliers and ecosystems that are actually a part of that. So for instance, within this environment, if we go here, you can see these are the current laws within that jurisdiction that support it. These are the different vendors in that area that actually support it, which I'd like to point out, Carrie, in a very big way. It's a standard that will actually help the identity worldwide to actually go live. And the digital world, I'd like to thank those that were involved in authorizing this letter from really the Digital World Technology Council to support within Utah, the Utah Governor's Office of Economic Development within specifically the state endorsed digital identity, which is this term here. So Utah state endorsed digital identity, to actually help advance the CARI protocols, as well as the work that Dr. Sam Smith is doing. He is an amazing human being, and I don't think he'll even be appreciated while he's still breathing. He's going to be like Charlie Kirk, where it'll just massively expand once people realize what this man has actually helped enable. And so this is actually a letter that went out yesterday from the digital world with some of the folks within that council. So grateful for that involvement. And then there's some other letters that went out as well in the support, different approach, different use case, but grateful for some of that as well. So back to your question around different Life apps, there's different regions. If there's something that you want to see, like I know that you're based out of Australia. If you want to see something that is based in Australia, just let us know, and we'd be happy to help make that become a reality. Australia is a colonial-based country, just like Canada and just like New Zealand, and it definitely falls in line with potential. It's just not there yet, but yeah. So, and then you've got Andrew.
Yeah, I was just wondering, actually, thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. Maybe in the next 6 to 8 months, we might see something for Australia, but where would Gaza sit under this? Like, what region are we thinking where we could create a Life app for Gaza?
There's actually been talk around Israel, but I know that doesn't necessarily directly tie to Gaza. But if you see it and you think there's a need, then
yeah, I mean, I talk to a lot of the universities around the world, and the Gaza University, some students there that work in science and technology. So I'm just trying to help them understand, and I was just wondering where they sat in that, because I know they need a lot of help. So might be something we can speak about.
Yeah, let's push on it. Let's push
Yeah.
on it. Thank you for thinking like that. So,
Hey, Mike Ragu here.
hi, Ragu. Welcome, welcome.
I just happened to catch this and very, very timely. I'll keep it short and sweet, but I sent you the a pitch deck that we're hoping to start taking around here. And what you just gave here today was actually the punchline after everybody's already been signed in. We're taking it from the other side that premium food is the hottest luxury product, and the Japanese are scrambling to find what as the replacement to both tourism and the European luxury products here in Hawaii. We're saying it's premium foods. You're already serving it, just rebrand it. So we're going to be taking that around to some politicians, and I think we may have our first meeting this week. But really, it's about tracking the food, and so basically, you have a turnkey, ready-to-go system. So if we do get some of these face-to-faces, it'd be great to see if we can tag team. Well, basically what you do is you give us a turnkey ready to go platform for the marketing that we're offering.
Yeah, you're spot on. What's interesting is this individual that's actually sitting next to me, and you'll get to know him in the future. I would say he probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, I might be making some assumptions. Is there anybody that imports more Japanese Wagyu than you in the state of Utah? He said no, just for those of you that didn't hear him. So what percentage do you think that you have of Japanese products, Wagyu, here in Utah? What percent do you think you fulfill?
75%.
So 75% of all the Japanese
Wagyu sold comes through us.
So literally 75% of Japanese Wagyu food or steak, it's a steak, right? That comes through Utah, goes through this individual sitting in my office right now, which ties directly to what you have been trying to teach the world. And I would even take it a step further. What's the name of that senator not senator, her father?
Mike Gabbard.
Mike Gabbard. You introduced me face to face with Mike Gabbard in Hawaii. And you got him to commit, or at least start the process to commit 1% of sales tax revenue to actually fund local farmers to create luxury or healthy food. And imagine
No.
Go ahead.
1% of the budget.
Oh, just 1%.
That's $2 billion. You got to give at least 1% of the budget. It's like we are the hottest food. How do you not give 1% to the farmers?
Exactly. And that's what this is all about, is how do you get the farmers the budget? How do we get farming to be the next cool and independent and imperative occupation that humanity can have? I know electricians and carpenters. Go ahead.
It's the other way around. It's taking off, and nobody has sort of jumped in and said, we're going to lead this. And so really the punchline of our proposal is Hawaii would make for a great place to come in and say, we're going to be the leader for the world's premium foods, because we have the commercial infrastructure in play with 10 million tourists of some of pretty much the world's top premium buyers. And the Japanese are already serving Hawaiian, produce and foods in their restaurants and hotels, rebranding it and then scaling it, and then having the mail order side. But what's interesting is that mail order sounds a little old fashioned as compared to what. So you are the 21st century version of mail order. So. If we can, that's the word I was looking for, incorporate. If we can just incorporate your presentation to this, I think it will give it will give it more body, first of all, but it will also give a faster turnaround time.
You know that everything we do is yours. And so go and take and do, and, leverage it, get those folks to listen to it, please. I would also ask you to explain to the audience here why shopping is so imperative, if you would.
Well, I'll try to keep it down to 1 minute if I can. 70% of our economy is consumption-based, which is to say that the consumer is deciding who gets the money 70% of the time. Now, everybody else throughout the social, economic, and political galaxy tries to convince us that they're actually running the show, whether it's the politicians, the bankers, or the corporations, or the media. But in fact, all of their power comes primarily through us and what we decide. And so to be able to figure out simple ways in order to focus and scale up that power was what the American Shopping Party was, which was to start off with buying local American made 1 day a month and then building it from there. But it's now gone to an entirely different level with Trump coming in and actually beating up on the world in order to get that American made. And so at this point, it's really just going to Trump and saying, would you be happy to get a commitment from, your followers to buy local American made on the first Friday of every month? For the reason being is that it will dramatically boost everything that he's trying to do. But even more importantly, it will guarantee that things will carry on. The man's health is, in question there, among other considerations, that this will be able to carry on even after he, leaves the stage. And because he's president, he can make this happen in a really big way. When I say instantly, I mean as in like 48 hours. So what that local really means is, and this is what you were touching upon, this is what's really exciting about it. And when you're talking about small farmers, it's the same thing about knowing the origin of the source of your product. And food, that isn't a moral issue. That is one of life and death when it comes to, the kinds of chemicals that they're using and the other compounds that are going into the food. I mean, these are deadly. When I was growing up, eating Fritos was, putting on weight. Today, eating those GMOs and, red dye 40 and these, they kill you. It's only, it's going to be like, 10 years or 6 months, but these are lethal foods. And so being able to know the source of them, in addition to the larger players, is where the real value is. And you have the system turnkey ready to go to make that happen. So this is really the centerpiece of we're offering the marketing that, listen, we need to figure out an alternative to tourism as a state and as an island here in Hawaii. But the Japanese, they have a multi-billion-dollar commercial infrastructure that they have to maintain, and they're not sure how to go about doing that. So I believe that having our political leaders and business leaders approaching the Japanese and saying, just put it along, what all the marketing that you've put into the European luxury market, put in like 3 to 5% of that for this premium food campaign, and let's see what we can do with it. And by the way, we have this platform turnkey ready to go. So I'm hoping we can have this up and running by Thanksgiving.
Do you think that there's a way to get to Tulsi Gabbard on this topic through her father, Michael Gabbard, who runs the Hawaiian environment, and our introduction there?
He's becoming increasingly reserved about passing any. It used to be in real time with him, and he's getting not only ever more reserved about that, but ever more distant for people being able to access him. So if it's something that has if it's something that has traction, at a local political level, what to speak of on a larger level, then he would be happy to pass it on because it's a trend that's already in play.
Okay.
And so the answer is yes. It's a qualified yes. And I believe that we can get that probably in the next 6 weeks. And I'll give you the details why if you have a few minutes after.
Okay. Is there anything else that you want to mention? It's great. Wonderful to have you on board. It's just a pleasure to have you to join in.
Oh, it's very serendipitous. Forming the company is called it's called Restaurant Row Renaissance. And the idea being that as the retail apocalypse is imploding, literally tens of thousands of retail stores in this country and around the world, the farmers market, in contrast, is really exploding. So that is the new market trend in a really big way. And so we're proposing, or it's not so much that we're proposing, here in Hawaii, 90% of all meals are taken at restaurants by the tourists. So we're saying, well, listen, restaurants are, what the farmer's market is, the restaurant is the farmer's restaurant is the boutique shop of that. And so then once we started looking at that, we realized that this restaurant farmer partnership is probably the single hottest retail platform that's been overlooked in the world today. And somebody like the Japanese, who have operations in most countries of the world, most developed countries, if they find that this model, in fact, offers a significant level of additional revenues and economic activity, they can roll it out globally in a relatively short time with relatively little cost.
It's awesome. Well, know that we would be honored to build with you in any form, anytime. So you see it, you
Thank
get
you,
it.
Mike.
We just got to get the implementation side of it there. And as you know, the technology's not the stopper at this point. It's the adoption and awareness and getting the merchants to understand what they don't have to take 2 days to get paid, and they don't have to pay 2.4% on average to get a transaction. It's like use the future systems, get more adoption, and cut your fees down and cut your delay down. And actually the dollar that you end up getting, you can actually hold more of it. So an update that Susan just popped in, it's not 32,000. It's now received 54,000 requests from high schools and college students that want to start a chapter to get involved with what Charlie Kirk started with Turning Point USA in action.
Hallelujah.
That's massive. Thank you for the real-time update there, Susan. Susan's actually in the same city or same area, the Phoenix area, as Charlie Kirk. And anyways.
Hey, Michael, can I please just ask one more question that I've got here?
Yeah.
If a regulatory body wanted to request records, and in the nature of the blockchain that it's public when we choose to share what we're transacting, can they just view that themselves, or would they need to still request something because of the systematicness of the network? Would they still have to request anything, I guess, that they can't find on the network? I mean, I'm not too sure if I'm asking that question the right way.
Well, the bottom line is none of the clear companies and none of the digital world has access to the data that the individual, who they are, what they share, how they share, when they share, or in the future when they get endorsed. So let's say that the state of Utah, somebody gets pulled over and they've got a digital plate, an officer scans it, an officer requests to see the driver's identity, and that driver gives them a verification that it's them, but that's it. And none of those transactions are ever shared publicly. Or let's say that the state of Utah endorsed someone's identity and someone checked their identity. None of that is seen, not even by the state. So it's completely private, completely owned by the individual. The individual can share the data or part of it or all of it or revoke it. It is in the individual's control, period. Does that make sense and answer your question?
It makes sense, yes, but it doesn't fully answer my question. But
I have another question, if may I.
Well, yeah, but Becca, I want to make sure that I understand it and I answer it because it's important to make sure that we're nailing this for you. So is now the right time to ask it a different way, or?
Yeah, okay, let me ask it a different way. Let's just say there was mass transactions in billions of dollars through the network, and somebody wanted to request, hey, how did you get this amount of money? There are people out there with suspicious minds, basically, and they like to act in a suspicious way. Not that it's right to act, not that you should act in a suspicious way, but that's the reality that we live in because of the way we think in nature. And there are people that might request, how did this particular entity get this amount of money? It's happened in the past. What would be the process for that situation for us to hand over here are the records? Because sometimes it doesn't come down to truth and justice. It comes down to money and records.
But here's the process. It is actually called due process, which is inside the United States of America, which had the first Declaration of Independence and their first Constitution and Bill of Rights, which cascaded across other countries. And inside of it, there's a thing called due process. Now, the records are transparent, but to link those records, it has to go through a process to compel the individual through due process and a legal process for them to actually provide it. And then they still have a choice, but then the force of law can come into place if they choose not to conform to that. But the key is the individual is the only one ever that can actually provide that data and access. Now, once they provide it, it can be revoked in whole or in part. But, if individuals understand keys and who they are, it combines both of those. So even if a legal organization were to get the keys, they would have to have the individual to conform to it, whether it's with a finger on most Android or Clear phones, or with the face with Apple phones. Now, some people, let's say there's an investigation. Let's say someone was in a car accident. You have two parties, maybe one's dead, and the other party, maybe they're questioned intoxic. I don't know how to say intoxication, so that they're drunk. and let's say that the officer just says, I want to see what you're doing on your phone. The officer most of the time can say unlock, and it says verify your face. They just put it on the person's face and it unlocks it. Now, what's the legal precedence of access and due process with that, right? Maybe the individual is in handcuffs and they've just done a field sobriety test or not. But the point being is due process, following laws within whichever jurisdiction is there, is what should be followed. And the technology enables that due process. Now, we're not saying that we have something to hide or people within the system. What we're saying is privacy is a human right. The right to travel is a human right. The right to transact is a right. And by us just saying, well, it's okay, I'll run an Apple phone and I'll put my face in there and then take it to another level. Like literally, I read today and this is terrible to say, but this is the reality. In Utah, Charlie Kirk was killed. At least that's what's purported. The building I went to yesterday, the people in the building at the state offices said that the health department, which is where Charlie Kirk's body was supposedly, and when he, the coroner's office and all of the investigation, which I don't know. I think there's something that's just really funky about the whole thing. But like my father-in-law says, time will be the great healer and the great revealer. This individual here in Utah, supposedly the one that's actually arrested, the third person that's been detained, they're saying that from emails and Discord chat sessions, which they've been able to get, the question would be, how did they get those? Because Discord came out and said no such transactions have happened. And then today I read the transactions with my own eyes and they looked weird. Maybe they took out pieces that weren't relevant, but in this kind of scenario, for instance, Discord versus Clear Signal, they do the same things, yet Clear Signal does so much more. And what we've basically done is taken the phone number off of Signal and the centralized componentry to it and used derived keys to give an individual private communication, right? And so they're the ones that own the keys to that communication and then alone. So in this type of situation, it's not just an identity or a business or a transaction, but chat records or photos or any of those things, they're the individuals. That's the real core value of a ClearPhone, by the way. So if you take a ClearPhone, you log in with your fingerprint, here, and then you basically have apps. These apps are Clear apps that use derived keys that pull your data into decentralized storage that you own, whether they're photos or mail or contacts or calendar or text messages, you name it, this is your data. And so in the world of due process, they need to say, you know what, we have this type of order to get access to them, and then they can get access to them. And what's sad is, and I don't want to say this the wrong way, but I believe that the government, the majority of the government inside of your country, and for those that are paying attention, they know what country that is, but I won't repeat it again. I believe that they actually are rubber stamping everything to do with digital anything, digital identity, digital payments, digital surveillance. They literally are a litmus test for the rest of the world to be able to prove that humans will just let it happen. Starting in your country and the country right next to you, Aotearoa. And then Canada, then what you're seeing over in Britain. That's another thing that's massive. In London, 3 million people have assembled over the last 72 hours. And they're just looking, I don't know if it's around Charlie. I don't know if it's around freedom. They say it is, but, this stuff is real. And the more people pay attention to it, the more they understand that technology can actually set us free. And intelligently organized technology can set future generations free. We just need to come together and do what Raghu said around getting the adoption. And it starts with commerce. It starts with shopping. It starts with meat. It starts with the guy sitting in the office next to me right now. And I know, as weird as this sounds, it's going to start with this supply chain of sheep out of Beaver, Utah, and people that actually pay attention, commissioners that pay attention, county clerks that pay attention, commerce folks, the farmers paying attention and saying, you know what, there's got to be another way. And just like what we just saw, what was it? 54,000? These are schools that are requesting for a guy that just created one of the largest, I shouldn't say it that way because that's not right. He didn't create anything. It was someone else's choice that chose to take a life. And I don't know if it was through a sniper or something else, or if it didn't even happen. It doesn't really even matter, because the awareness is there. The understanding that it goes back to the basis of what we started this on, that there is a difference between the physical lives that we're living and the spiritual environments that create the physical lives that we get the opportunity to live, all of us within these bodies, and the digital layer. The digital layer is real. And whether we look at it and layer AI on it, whether we look at it and layer autonomous driving on it, it doesn't matter. We've figured out how to take silicon and code to get things to transact. But if we do it in such a way where it can run on its own and people can actually be free because of it, I think we've accomplished something that future generations massively need. So I hope I've answered your question, and I'll jump back over to it because we had one more. Becca, I hope I answered your
Thanks,
question.
Michael.
Okay. I don't know if I did or not, but
Thank you, Michael.
does it make sense to you?
Oh, yeah, it definitely makes sense.
Okay.
Yes. And I just do want to say that I think it's really important that we understand. I know we've got many businesses probably inside the digital world and our other ecosystems, and just creating those psychologically safe environments for individuals is really important. So I just wanted to stress that.
Yeah, amen. Totally agree. Thank you for all that you do and stand for so long. It's nice to see people that really get this and see it. Mariano, you had a question or a comment or something that you wanted to bring up. Please, is now an okay time for you?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Saw you,
Just-
Wapo.
Hello, everybody again. So let me just share my screen. Can you see it? Everything?
Yeah, we got you.
Perfect.
We got you.
So right now, I don't know if you have saw it, what was happening in Nepal.
Well, I don't see your screen. I see you. Let me see if we can. You should be able to share at the same time.
Share screen. Yeah, nice time.
There's no,
Can you see it now?
Not working, eh? No, it's not
Sure.
coming up. Okay, something's coming up. Yeah.
No?
No, whatever
Yeah.
you just changed. It's black.
Oh.
You got to share your whole screen when you do it, but I think you're sharing
You got it?
successfully. It's just black on my side. Maybe it's the system. I don't know. Maybe you could just talk us through what you're trying to communicate.
Okay, well, right now, what is happening with Nepal? I don't know if you have been aware of what was happening in Nepal. There was a revolution, and they take over the.
Oh,
the government.
yeah. They did it responsibly. Wasn't that awesome? But
Well, yes, and right now what they are doing is they make elections through Discord. You know, the Gen Z, the younger ones, make elections digitally. You know, through Discord, through like a website. You know, and I think that right now the use of these kind of systems, these kind of platforms, these kind of environments, jurisdictions, they're more needed than anything else right now.
You want me to tell you a secret?
Tell me.
And this isn't done yet, but it's next on the roadmap for development on the Life app. And we haven't done it. We haven't accomplished it. So I can't say that this is done. But we're basically integrating in communication into the Life app in addition to the voting.
Nice.
So you just sent over a message. Let's go ahead and see what you said. I'll go ahead and read
Yes.
it real fast.
Can you please read it with your
Meetsackermeet.com/clear. The Mexico 2030 digital platform is a citizen-driven project that seeks to rebuild democracy from the ground up through a new constituent assembly that will draft a new constitution. Its core principle is direct, local, and decentralized democracy, where every neighborhood, district, and community actively participates in national decision-making. This ensures citizen sovereignty, transparency, and accountability within a digital system that places power directly in the hands of the people.
Amen.
So right now, that's what we wanted to do, to draft a complete new constitution. That's the project with Mexico, to assemble a new constituent. You know,
Wow, really?
to convoke all the people in each state, in each municipality. Well, it's the same as here in the States, county.
That's huge. Who wants to cast a vote here for an example president in Mexico? Actually,
Well, that's the thing. What we are envisioning is to do it like more decentralized, you know, so create sovereign citizen groups that they are way beyond parties, because right now it will be super hard to overturn the actual regime that is right now there. But we have our options also. Salinas Pliego, it's one of the main options that is going on right now. But yeah, I just wanted to share that to you guys, that we are very interested in doing this, you know, and it's an example of what is happening right now in Nepal. If they can be able to do it, I share you the link. I don't know if you can be able to share it.
Here, I'll see if I can find it real fast. There it is.
If you're able to share it.
I do remember seeing this. They basically burned everything down, stood everything up. A bunch of people that stole stuff, they came back the next day. They reprimanded the people that stole it. They put all of the burnt stuff. They started organizing it. It was amazing to see. It was like really, really wonderful to see, actually. So I'm sharing my screen here, and I think I'm trying to share what you were sharing. So you're saying this is the folks that were doing it, and you had almost 10,000 people that were on this call right here, right? Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Imagine all those people just make those elections in Discord. Imagine what we can do with a digital platform that we can be able. So my question in all this is very simple. So how can we show to the world and prove the authenticity of the elections? You know, that, for example, like to demonstrate to international authorities to get recognized on any like election that we make, even if it's something small, because what we're trying to do.
I actually think we can build off of this Mexican one, and we do it within counties, we do it within cities, we do it within smaller organizations. Maybe it's a province, maybe it's a smaller kingdom. We start small, and you have to have total transparency on the back end of it. Is the system open? Is it auditable? Can people have true privacy? Here in America, if an organization actually rolls out a system and the privacy is violated, whoever rolled it out is actually criminally liable for that. And so I know that a lot of different folks, especially folks that roll, there's a saying in the tech industry, nobody gets fired for hiring IBM, or it was Microsoft back in the day. That's because the standard is so high, but the liability is actually very real. For instance, a lot of these centralized systems are actually big honeypots for liability. And so when you really look at the model, and if you had decentralized tech, even though it's new, if there's county commissioners that are willing to say, I'll roll that out versus the other voting types techs. Well, I actually think that's how governments are taken over, is through the voting technology. And if you can provide transparent voting, and you can literally allow people to have a voice privately, beautiful things can happen. And I think Mexico is actually the right place to do it, because you tell me one place in the world where 24 people, maybe it was 25, you tell me, they literally were murdered when they were running for president. Like this last term, it was crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy the amount of people that is getting like killed every day in all Mexico right now. So right now we'll need it and to start in every municipality. Like it's the same municipality as country here in the States.
Yeah, look at this Wikipedia page. I'll pull that up, and I'll pull this one up. And there's a real problem. Like, these are all the people that were running for president, and they were assassinated within 1 year. These are humans. Like what happened with Charlie Kirk. What is it? How many people was it? Do you remember? Was it 24 or 25?
I can't even know, because there are so many.
Just a quick, are you showing
Well,
pictures, Mike?
Yeah, I'm trying to show. Maybe it's not showing, but here, let me go back.
Okay.
Here, let me. Yeah, so I'm trying to show the list of politicians during 2024 that were murdered when those elections were going on. I mean, it's just mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. And from what I understand, this wasn't big news. This was like the gal that was murdered from North Carolina. Was it North Carolina? She's from Ukraine, but she was on the train. I talked about her last week.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
Irina.
Yeah, it's the same type of thing. They're assassinated and killed, and nobody really cares. But anyways, I don't want to be negative and talk about all the negative stuff, but you're right. The solutions are the potential for these types of voting systems to be rolled out and to provide the transparency behind it. Right now, I think the voting stuff, the technology's there, it's viable, but the world doesn't care. And I personally like Michael Flynn told me face to face, he's like, Mike, only physical hand ballots are the way to do it. And you know, the Trump administration's behind that, and they don't want to see it. Where everybody's aware of it now is like financial transactions and identity are big topics. Voting, they could care less on, even though I think that's the Achilles heel that really governments are overtaken on. But you know, your comment is spot on. And if we could do some type of a system for if people want to have communication and be able to get that voting system for Nepal up and going, you know, we're happy to help. You know, we're happy to build it if they want us to do it. Get like 1,000 people to tell us to do it, and we'll do it for them. Does that make sense? Or even even 1,000,
Perfect, yeah.
even 1,000. You know, that's what this technology is built for. So, with that being said, other topics before we convene tonight? I know we've gone a little long, twice as long as we're supposed to. Any feedback or thoughts? Okay, we'll go ahead and say goodbye. Wally, would you wrap us up with a word of prayer? Pretty please. I don't know if you're with us still. I know it's been a long night and you're not feeling 100%. Wally, are you there? Like he's still with us. I know we've actually supposed to go an hour. We went in 2.5 hours. How did it go by so fast?
Mike, I'm here.
Okay, bud. Do you want to wrap us up and close us with a word of prayer?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Our Father in heaven, we are so thankful for the time we've had this evening to discuss world events and updates for the digital world. We are grateful for all those who are involved and who assist in bringing forth the digital world, whether they're doing so on their own behalf or representing a group, farm, a city, a country, state or province, or a nation. Please bless and reward their efforts. Please also bless and comfort those impacted locally and throughout the world by senseless violence and divisive rhetoric. We pray for peace and for the ability to solve differences without violence. We also pray for justice for those responsible for acts of evil against humanity. We humbly pray for these things in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for being you and for all that you do and stand for. You know, you talk about justice, which will be crazy is if this individual who is a brother of all of ours, if he or she, whatever it is, if his life or her life is taken from this act, in addition to Charlie Kirk, which I know if Charlie Kirk were here, he would say, don't kill another. I'll even bet that if this goes all the way through trial, he's convicted, and they put him in front of a firing squad, his wife will say, don't kill another. But what's crazy is by us not uniting and taking a stance, I guarantee that this young man, whether he's guilty or not, I guarantee that this gentleman named Tyler Robinson, I think that's his name, has been on a video game and pulled a trigger on a keyboard or a joystick thousands of times with a sniper rifle. And back in the day when I was born, those things have been desensitized. You know, even what we saw with Charlie Kirk has been desensitized. And in the state of Utah, they're trying to get guardianship for parents to be able to put some form of control. And I can tell you, I've got 5 boys. My boys love to do that stuff. Does it desensitize them? Yes. As a parent, do I feel like I would pay any amount of money to be able to say no and to stop it? Yeah, I've spent a lot of money building tools and systems and ClearGM. That's 5 years and take crazy stuff. But it still doesn't take away their choice to go and do it or to be involved in it or exposed to it. But I can tell you that in 1 month from tomorrow, you will see on the UVU campus, so this particular event right here, October 17th, UVU campus, where Charlie Kirk was killed, you will see a ability for a guardian to actually, through video games, EAS, which is the Video Game Main Association, which a lot of them tie to, the identities to be able to propagate or approve age. This is going to happen in 1 month. We'll prove it to you within the work that we're doing with the state-endorsed Identity Summit, which is called SETI, the state-endorsed digital ID. And then you will also see, and this was the use case, so we met with the state yesterday, and they extended the opportunity for us to build a new type of use case. Instead of going down to the youth, we go to the generation that was before us. So let's say you've got parents in the middle, youth on one side, and grandparents on the other side. Grandparents also are massive victims. They've worked their life. Maybe they have an income stream, maybe from Social Security, maybe from retirement, maybe for whatever. And then, and this is the scam, over $10 billion last year in this particular scam was said, grandparents get an AI call from what's purported to be a grandchild. Have you heard of this? And then they literally are saying, hey, I got in a car accident. Maybe I hurt this person. Maybe I'm getting arrested. Maybe they're saying I was drunk. Maybe I'm in jail and maybe I'm not, whatever. And I need $900. I need $9,000. I need $18,000. I need to pay the attorney. I need to set bail. And literally the grandparents send it. There's fraud that's going on like that because of AI, because of not knowing identity and who they are. And what we're going to be given the opportunity to do is to prove how the digital world would not only identify the individuals, but send the payments. And if it's over a certain dollar amount, the parent in the middle can actually say, grandma wants to send a grandchild $9,700, and the max that they can do is $2,000 or $5,000. And so the parent gets involved to validate the transaction from what they call a multi-signature. Just like how you had checks back in the day, you had to have 2 signatures on it for it to get cashed. Now they don't pay attention to that stuff. But in this case, you can cryptographically send the payment in real time, do the multi-signature, all of it. And we're going to show how the digital world can actually enable that. And if people take their life and their assets into this type of environment, similar to what we saw here. Let's see if I can find it. Well, I don't even have it up. But you understand what I'm trying to say. If they say, a grandma wants to say, hey, I don't want to use username and passwords. I just want to log in and I want to send an asset. And they literally just click on it, drag and drop it, and say how much they want to send. This can be done on a phone. It can be done on a computer. But they literally can send it in real time right here, right? So we're getting a lot of feedback, but I think you understand this can be a transaction. Once it gets sent, the parents can say, hey, we're actually the guardians over our parents. We're getting a lot of feedback for those of you that may not be muted. So this is just a beautiful opportunity. And I really believe that what Wally just prayed for, that ability to be able to be good guardians. And this ties to that guardianship side of it, not only from the next generation, our kids and grandkids that are coming up, but for progenitors or for our forefathers and the wise folks that we need to be learning from. It gives them an opportunity to also add value in our lives. And I would just challenge each one of you, either bring you into this world or mentor you in this world, and just appreciate them. Spend time with them. I know life is busy, but just figure out how to maybe just say, hey, you want to go to lunch? Or anyways, we're getting a lot of feedback, so we're going to go ahead and close up tonight. But thank you for being here, even though it took over 2.5 hours. But hopefully this added value in someone's life. And Wally, thank you for your prayer and for your love and for your example and for your, and I guess there's a lot of people that have really said the right prayers for not only Charlie Kirk, but for the movement of light versus dark that has been brought to transparency. So with that being said, much love, and we'll see you next Tuesday, 6 o'clock Mountain Time, or whenever you catch up online. Much love, everybody. Bye-bye.